What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 107. My name is Bret, aka Enigma911, and today I'm joined once again by Corey, aka Corey Cudney. Corey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I wasn't even prepared for the once again part. I feel like this is one of the first podcasts that I've guested on a
Multiple.
second time. This is
Oh,
like
all right.
record breaking. This is amazing. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, we had such an awesome conversation last time, and we alluded at what we were going to talk about today, so I was really looking forward to it and excited. But thank you for popping on today, man. It means a lot.
Yeah, totally. I am very excited to dive into our topics. And yeah, no, totally. 100%. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Guys, if you want to catch this podcast live, you can always go to twitch.tv/Enigma911 every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat if you're a subscriber over there. We'd love to have you. If you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. You can go over to YouTube and now podcast services. The very next week, it's broken up topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 on the following Friday. Remember, guys, Extra Life 2021 is coming up on November 20th. That's a Saturday from 12 noon Eastern to the very next day of Sunday at 12 noon Eastern. 24 hours of gaming, trying to help out the kids and raise money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Any way you can help us out by either watching, donating, or just spreading the word would be greatly appreciated. And last but not least, hashtag add merch store. Get all of your swag over there, t-shirts, cups, backpacks, and more. Rep the brand. Support us, and we would love you for it. Okay. All right. That was a better rigmarole than last week. Last week was a train wreck. I was like, whoa.
You were in it, and I distinctly had deja vu where I was like, I remember complimenting his housekeeping last time. You still got it. You still got it.
Oh, boy. So, yeah, we got Corey back on once again. And Corey is a big old wrestling fan. So I wanted to kind of pick his brain about his wrestling fandom. So, Corey, first off, when did you start watching wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, so I've been watching wrestling like officially since '06.
Okay.
I do have like a funny story about being a kid, and I don't know what the year was, but I was a small child,
Mm-hmm.
and as most small children have this memory, I remember our parents' TV being like huge, and I don't remember if it was actually huge, but I remember it being huge, and we were like flipping through channels. And I don't know why in my head, but because wrestling became such a big thing in my life, I think I'll always remember this. We were swapping through channels, and the little WWE or WWF logo in the corner, like just they stayed there and watched it for
Right.
a second. And I remember specifically as a kid looking at that logo in the corner, like, oh, what's this? And then like we didn't pay any attention to it, whatever. Fast forward to about 2006. My memory is hazy. I am at this point 10 years old. And so my brother, I don't know how he got into it, but I was called into his room. I was summoned, and he was watching Monday Night Raw. And I don't know how long he had been watching it at that point, but we were in the midst of a couple of storylines, which is something that WWE just doesn't seem to do anymore. But we were at like this like multi-layered story of one of my favorite authority storylines of all time, and I'm clearly biased, but the Mr. McMahon and Shawn Michaels
Mm-hmm.
feud that was going on all through late 2005 and 2006. And it was also around the time that Kane was doing his May 19th shtick. And so they booked the match as Shawn Michaels is going to be the special guest referee between Kane and Rob Conway. And this would be a very unremarkable match for most anybody, but for me, I remember it as like this. This is the moment that I saw it. My brother called me into the room, and I was like, "Oh, I like this. This is funny," because they made Shawn Michaels wear a yellow T-shirt with May 19th written all over it, and the whole gimmick of the match was that it was pretty much just purely a comedy match that Shawn would go into it. Kane was going to come out and be all brr, but Shawn knocks out Rob Conway before the match starts, puts the T-shirt on him, and hilarity ensues of Kane like just demolishing Rob Conway, Shawn Michaels going underneath the ring, grabbing a trash can, like holding it on the rope, acting, all innocent. Kane would grab it. Shawn's like, oh, how did he get that? And then he counts the 1, 2, 3 super easy. And yeah, so it was great. And that was also 2006. and again, I'm kind of biased, but I think it was a great year for the title picture because you had Triple H and RVD and John Cena all like vying, and Edge all like vying for the title at that point. Shawn Michaels with Mr. McMahon on the corner over here, and then DX was also at the same time about to reunite. So there was some perfect moments that I didn't know at all the story of DX as a kid, but shit is going down
Yeah.
when they cross their paths. I don't know the episode, I don't know the circumstances, but it's the episode where Shawn is like storming off, and Triple H also at this point has crossed paths with Mr. McMahon, and so they're both like he's just torturing them both at this point, and they cross paths and they like stare at each other, and the crowd goes wild because they like know what is about to happen. But there's like great tornado tag matches that got me in at that time. WrestleMania 22, we didn't watch live, but we went to the local Hastings and got it. And I remember at Walmart, WrestleMania 22 came with a Rey Mysterio DVD. I know you asked me like a simple question.
Oh, you're
I'll
good.
just go off. But like WrestleMania 22 comes with this Rey Mysterio DVD. And this is such a child Corey move because I was a good kid for like 99% of the time, but then there was just things that I was like, no, I'm gonna die on this hill. My brother was like, okay, we're gonna share this WrestleMania 22 thing, but I get to keep the Rey Mysterio DVD. And I was like, no, I want the Rey Mysterio DVD. Had I ever heard of Rey Mysterio at this point? No, but I wanted that DVD. And so we ended up getting two of these like $30 WrestleMania packs just so my parents wouldn't have to hear us yelling back and forth. And I should have actually grabbed it. The exact same WrestleMania 22
nice, right
is
over there.
sitting like right over there. I sold most of my wrestling DVDs a while back, but I kept, the few that were super important to me, and that will always stay with me as long as I have a say, just because it's WrestleMania 22, fantastic show, phenomenal. And pretty much ever since then, like a lot of people, I kind of dipped out of WWE around 2008, 2009. CM Punk brought me back in for a little bit with the Summer of Punk. I dipped back out because 2011, 2012, most of 2013, not that great. And then I started getting rumblings of Daniel Bryan and the Yes Movement and everything like that. And especially with the network and WrestleMania 30 and all that good stuff just happening at the same time, I tuned in to the run up to WrestleMania 30 in 2014. And I pretty much just haven't stopped since then. So it was really strong with WWE and TNA about 06 to 09. And then a big break for a little while with sparse connections. And then pretty much since 2014, as most viewers, I think these days, I'm passively paying attention to WWE. Right now, AEW is a weekly viewer of both, Rampage and Dynamite. And Dark and Elevation, every once in a while we'll see it on the TV, but mostly those are the big things. And my brother is also super huge into everything. He watches GCW, and he's a really big Nick Gage fan, and so yeah, he's the one who he has the New Japan subscription and has for like years. Doesn't tune in to all their pay-per-views or anything.
Yeah.
He's the definition of the consumer you want, where he doesn't tune into everything, but he's going to keep the sub just in case he wants to. And so, yeah, no, wrestling has really informed my life pretty much, like I said, since about the age of 10. So about the last 15 years, I've been either paying attention to it directly or passively paying attention to it with it in the background.
Nice. Yeah, that's so a shockingly surprising, like, another area where we like line up really well, similar to the last episode. So as a kid, I had like action figures and stuff. Did I really know like where I got these or however? No, but I remember playing with them. I do remember as a kid seeing, my parents had a VHS or something, a copy of it, but I remember seeing the barbershop scene, Shawn kicking Marty.
Nice. Yep.
So that is like the moment that sticks in my brain as a kid from watching it. And then nothing. Like I said, I had the figures, but other than that, really didn't watch anything.
Yeah.
And then 06 rolled around.
Oh my God.
I think it was the SummerSlam of 06, because I didn't watch WrestleMania 22. WrestleMania 23 was my first WrestleMania to like watch pay-per-view wise. So I think it was that SummerSlam. and I watched it at an uncle's house and was like, oh, and then my cousin was really into it, and like it got right back into it. So yeah, I've been watching since that point, and then
Nice.
I've been pretty consistent with it. Like Monday Night Raw was always a questionable one to watch, just because I got school the next night or next morning, excuse me. So it's like I can't stay up. But like SmackDowns, I would always watch. ECW, I tried to watch when I was older or when that was on. And then, yeah, just following up with the pay-per-views and stuff like that. And then you mentioned TNA, or Impact now, but same exact scenarios. Like, what is this? Uncle had it on. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was just hooked in. Just right
TNA was like the cool one to go to. You were like, they're doing the X Division stuff. They're doing awesome stuff over here.
Yeah.
Especially in that 06, 07, 08 time. Those were pure
crushing
times.
it. They were crushing it. And I remember when like the Monday Night Wars 2 happened, and I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Obviously, we saw that went, but you know. Ooh.
Yeah.
And then from there, like NXT started being a thing. And I remember when it first started with the talent show, and I was like, okay, all right. And then obviously it started getting momentum and then becoming the black and gold brand. And just like, once that happened, I was like full in on that brand. Like, that was just awesome to watch. And then like learning more about like Ring of Honor and New Japan and these other companies, and like, oh shit, like indie wrestling is actually pretty big, and kind of learning these names. And then because of that, this will kind of lead into my next question, but I had the opportunity to go to NXT Brooklyn Takeover 1.
Nice.
That was insane. Just being way up in the nosebleeds and just like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Those Brooklyn shows are nuts.
Oh yeah, takeovers are always great, but yeah, that was something special. And like, it's been something that they did. I think they did a 24 on or some special on. But watching that just like put me right back in that place. Like, holy shit, like that was a moment. That was awesome. So yeah, have you had any live experiences, whether it's WWE or another brand, that you've gone and watched a show?
Yeah, like I think a lot of kids, obviously there are definitely, if you live in a higher populated area, you can start at like the televised events. But growing up, I grew up in Midland, Texas, and they came through for house shows every once in a while. But even then, it like really wasn't that often. And so I don't think I saw a WWE thing for quite a while. I think it was like 08 or something. It was a few years before I actually got to see anything. And it was just a house show. I remember Shawn Michaels is there. Shawn Michaels is always my favorite. Still probably always will be my favorite. And so like, I remember that he was there, but that's pretty much the only thing I remember. That the bigger thing, which is so weird, I should have thought to bring these things out, but I didn't. It's in my closet somewhere. We have a poster from it, or a poster. It's an 8x10 printout. But there was a local show that for some reason they had an agreement with TNA that they brought in like most of the roster, and like it was a house show, but it wasn't a house show like WWE's house shows are just like the wrestlers kind of get to goof off. The good guys always win. They get to try out new combinations. You know, there's no stakes at WWE house shows. They're just supposed to be mainly for, at the time, I was the target demographic, mainly for the kids, you know, like, oh, I see him, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And, but this TNA house show was like totally different. They were bringing out like barbed wire tables and all kinds of stuff. Like they were going for it. It was like Abyss, and Christopher Daniels, I believe, was still doing Fallen Angels, but he also did, oh man, I can't think of his name now. The Mask. Yeah, Curry Man. He was double booked that night. He also did a Curry Man match. Like Kazarian was there, and like there was just all kinds of huge names at the time, and you know, have gone on to still be huge. But that was like the house show as a kid that really stuck out with me. I went to a few house shows when I moved to Amarillo, Texas. You got a few more house shows, Amarillo being a big wrestling scene associated with the Funks and everything. And so most companies like to go house shows through there, but they never bring televised events. There's nothing big enough to really hold that there. They'll always go to Lubbock, which is just 2 hours down anyway. So like Raws will go to Lubbock, you know, once a year or something. And so my first televised one, I think I leaped in. The first televised thing was Royal Rumble 2017. Was the Rumble and then the associated NXT the night previous. And that one was awesome because that was the one where like Seth Rollins and Triple H were in the middle of their feud.
Yeah.
And so Seth Rollins runs out and he like hijacks the show for a second. Like I remember that was huge. It's the one where Bobby Roode lost the title. Maybe he won the title. I think he won the title. But anyway, like that was an awesome takeover. And yeah, Royal Rumble was also awesome. Like you said, with Brooklyn, we were up in the rafters. There was like 50 some odd thousand people there. And so that was by far the most amount of people I'd ever been in the same area with.
Yeah.
And so it was just bananas. And it was so funny to see when they were walking down. And I remember is the only thing that I really think I've ever lived through in my life where it was a viral thing on Twitter where if you remember that year had a super long walk. And so if they had any of the like super heavyweights or anybody like that, they were on the little golf cart. And the camera crew, we didn't know this live there, but the camera crew was doing everything in their power not to show, them being carted down. And some people, it was really funny. You know, they were just like, hold on, and like didn't want to look at anybody or anything. Big E was really funny because he was doing like the Queen wave as he was going. And like, that was awesome. But yeah, so that was like a phenomenal time. And then AEW, now that me and my brother are adults with dispensable income, we've gone to 3 or 4 of those shows. AEW's been to Austin twice now. We've been to both of those, and those were both just awesome shows. We went to the Houston show or Corpus Christi show, which is a very funny moment because I still think that may be to this day the most poorly received episode of Dynamite because that's the episode that completely, it was the last episode of Dynamite for the year. And that's the episode that ended with Dark Order beating down the Elite. And everybody was thinking that Marty Scurll was going to come out. He did not. And the in-house crowd wasn't super happy with that ending. It literally just ended with back when they were doing the Human Throne. It was a whole thing. And so I remember on the drive back, because it's like a 3-hour drive, we were like, that one wasn't great. It was all right. And then we've been to another one, I thought, but at the very least, we've been to those 3. But those shows are by far my favorite ones to look at. The NXT in San Antonio with Royal Rumble was very cool, but the AEW ones are just a different atmosphere. It's very cool to be in and amongst all those people. And in Austin, there's the running joke now, and he comes every year of Scooby-Doo. There's a guy dressed up as Scooby-Doo, and then there's a guy dressed up as Jesus. And every year, Justin Roberts brings him in, and they didn't do it this year, but they did it back in 2019, where back when AEW used to have all of the Elite come out to do all the like dark go home moments and talk to the crowd and stuff, and they had Jesus versus Scooby-Doo, and it was like a tag match, and it was just fantastic. But yeah, no, so that's like my live event experiences and everything, and we really want to go to WrestleMania next year just to tick it off the box because it's in Dallas. And so it's, just a couple hours down. And I'm just like, do I want to spend that much money for current day WWE product? That's the problem that me and my brother are kind of wrestling with, no pun intended. Just to kind of figure out, like, those tickets are expensive, even like the higher up seats. And there's definitely a balance that you want to strike with those higher things. I will never forget going in Royal Rumble. We're excited, and there's a lady just with this shit-eating grin selling binoculars in the top. And she's like, y'all aren't gonna see anything. You need these binoculars. And out of principle, we're like, we're not.
Yeah.
And they had a huge screen. Like we were joking during it. It's like, I'm kind of watching TV more than I'm watching the wrestling. But I was like, you're in it for the feel, and you're in it, for all of that. And so that was really cool to do it. So that's probably what my WrestleMania experience is going to be like if we end up going, because it's very expensive, I imagine. So yeah.
Nice. Papa Griffin chat says 2017, that takeover was rude, defeated Nakamura in San Antonio's takeover for the title.
Thank you. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, the Royal Rumble is a bucket list for me. And then, Mania, of course. But I don't know if those will ever happen. We'll see. I imagine the Rumble will be fun. But once again, it's like circling back to NXT. Obviously, it's changed. But, like, that was, like, at least in the most recent years, like, those were the oh shit moments. Like, I don't know. Like, legends are cool. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know if I'll ever feel like, oh my God, I know that guy. Because they'll be like, there's all those people like, I don't know who this is. And like, there's that connection.
Yeah, those NXT shows, it's so amazing for, like, the past, up until this year. I mean, it's really like the past, 5-6 years now, that it seems like pay-per-view after pay-per-view, they were like, man, how is main roster going to top that? And then they almost never do.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, those guys are killing it. And the fact that WWE like saw that as a huge failure, like, well, we got to reboot this. I was like, oh my God, guys, come on.
Yeah, I get what they want to do with it, but yeah, just I don't know. That's a whole other topic in itself.
Yep, 100%.
So you mentioned Shawn Michaels being one of your favorites. Do you have any other favorites, whether it's Legends of the Past or even ones today?
Yeah, Shawn Michaels was always up at the top for me, mainly because of the introduction, and then a lot of it just goes back to Mania 22. And then he also just, most of his run after he returns from the back injury, just solid. He has some great matches. And everybody loved the Shelton Benjamin moment in the Raw intro. Yep. It's like the best moment. But directly underneath him, I'd have to say Jericho.
Okay.
I feel like in his recent years, he's kind of been iffy for a few things. But I mean, just overall, like, he is an amazing performer, and the amount of times he's right up there with Matt Hardy, who is like another of my top fives. But those two do reinvention so well, and it's nothing that anybody hasn't said a million times in the wrestling space. But like, those two just know how to keep their character fresh and interesting, and bringing over the Painmaker and then taking from New Japan to AEW and being like, now the Painmaker is a special thing, and so it's like, oh shit is going down.
Right.
And it's one of those things. This is in, like, I don't know, 07, 08. My brother, as a birthday present one time, bought, this guy had on eBay, he was selling a burned DVD of his recording VHSs of old Chris Jericho, like, Japan matches and Mexico matches and all this really, really classic stuff. And the quality is just awful. I went back to it like last year or the year before, and I was like, this is kind of unwatchable, because you can tell that it has all the hallmarks of a recording of a recording of a recording of, like, there's scan lines, and the tape just gets destroyed at some points, and it skips, and it's like, I don't need to watch these this way. But like, I used to have an old, like, lion tamer toy that was like 10 years old by the time it got to me, another eBay purchase. And like, Jericho was a really big, his return in 07 was a really big moment for me. And it's really funny how we are as kids, where it's like, I did not know his, like, history, and like, him getting, fired in 05 by Bischoff. And, I don't know if I had ever even seen that stuff, but the Save Us 222 commercials, just really hooked me as a kid, and I was like, I like this guy. And then, like, he debuts by clotheslining the torchbearer. I can remember it, like, so vividly. And so, like, it's Jericho's right up there, Hardy's right up there, who also has just a fantastic career. And those are definitely the top threes. I'm trying to think. Like, I have an Edge best of over there, who is also just a solid one. Christian is Christian and Sting in my TNA days. Those were like my two big ones there. But we are so similar in other ways. Now I want to hear your tops and see what you've got.
Okay, well, I definitely agree with Shawn. Shawn is my top for sure. Just, like you mentioned, his performances, like whether it's the Undertaker matches or him and Kurt Angle, like those are all fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Hardy Boys, Big fan of them. I
Nice.
didn't watch any Attitude Era, so like
Yeah.
I think it was the Best of Ladder Match DVD was where I first
Yes.
watched all those. It was like, oh, this is sweet. Obviously the music's killer, and yeah, just that. Oh, so awesome.
Back when they had the
seeing it.
WrestleMania anthology DVDs, that's how I saw Mania 17 and 18.
The big golden box.
The big gold.
My parents at my parents' house.
Yep, that's exactly my parents got me that, and that was my introduction to Mania 17 and 18 and 19, and like those are all just pivotal Hardy Boy moments.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So them. Let's see who else. CM Punk. I liked him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I liked him the whole time, but like I really got attached to him even in his ECW days. Like being introduced to that, really liked his look there, and then it was cool seeing him part of the Survivor Series team with DX and Hardy's. Then that was just a lot of fun. And then, yeah, obviously his character has grown since, whether it was the Straight Edge Society or obviously Voice of the Voiceless and now what he's doing now. Like, I don't know if I'm as much of a fan of him now. Not that I'm like, oh, fuck that guy, but like, I really enjoyed all that stuff. And then for like recent stuff, let's see. Oh, well, Adam Cole definitely, has gotten my attention like the world. Yeah, he's fantastic. I really like DIY. With Gargano and Ciampa. Becky Lynch I was a big fan of for a while. When she went the man gimmick, I liked it. And then they kind of went almost like too far with it, where she was wearing like the king crown and like all these big puffy jackets. And I'm like, all right, not my cup of tea. But yeah, I liked her when she was the steampunk Becky. And then, yeah, when she first made that big breakout for herself.
Yeah, there's definitely with Becky, it seems like there's something. The puffy jackets is a great example, but there's something like almost intangible that's like it feels different from when she just organically became the man and the broken nose with Nia Jax and all that good stuff over time, and the crowd was just so behind her and she was so over, and then she leaves and returns, and it's weird because a lot of the times it's like absence makes the heart grow fonder, but I guess maybe it's the way that they brought her back in that match that I'm already blanking on, but she just squashed.
Oh, don't worry, I got you. Bianca Belair, 16 seconds, the biggest disrespect to all of us after the year Bianca has had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that just was like a weird way to start it, and so. But yeah, there's definitely something where it's like, man, you used to be super cool and you're still super cool, but something's changed. Yeah. And I haven't put my finger on it yet.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Motherhood changed you, Becky.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's those guys. Let's see. Rhea Ripley's awesome. And then over on the AEW side, I know I already brought up Adam Cole. He's great. I really enjoy the Bucks. Obviously, hadn't seen much of them in their ROH times. I do remember when they were in Impact, TNA Generation Me. I liked them then. So it's been interesting to see that change. Who else over there? I really like Jungle Express. I think Luchasaurus is my standout there. I'm tempted. I still need to go back and watch the Lucha Underground. I think those are on Amazon.
Nice.
I'd like to go back and watch those.
My brother loved Lucha Underground.
Oh, really? Nice.
That's like, it's a very good definitive edge that he has over me, where he's like, oh, like he knew Penta immedially going into AEW, and I've really had to like learn them over time, and it's like, honestly, the first time you see him, you're like, these guys are awesome, but it was just like, all that knowledge going into it, and they have such a great roster. They remind me of, I'm looking at it right now and I can't think of it. The old, was it MTV, where they had the wrestling show for like a season, and it had Vampiro and it had all these people in there, and it's got an X in it, Wrestling Society X.
Yeah.
WSX. Yeah, it's like that. It reminds me of that, where it's like it was just batshit insane, and now like a lot of these people are still going, and you're like, oh yeah, I watched you in a weird like that wrestling show is where wrestling peaked. It never gets better than that.
But yeah, I would say those are some of my standouts that I really enjoy.
Those are good.
Yeah. You mentioned AEW's got a big roster. So out of that roster, any newbies that have kind of caught your eye? You already mentioned Penta.
Yeah. So what I love about AEW is and it sounds so played out now, but it is crazy to see like people like you mentioned Jungle Express, like Jungle Boy and stuff, being like, wow, you really do like look like the future of the business, and like the way that you're going at, his age, it's like, wow, you have a full, career ahead of you.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, this is cheating because he's not new at all. I loved Ty Dillinger. I still love Shawn Spears. Like I was such a huge Ty Dillinger guy, and like him at the Royal Rumble was a great moment. And yeah, I still love Shawn Spears. I'm trying to think. They do have a big roster, and now it's like until you ask me, I would have been able to tell you, and then now I'm just like,
oh
blanking
yeah,
on
I feel that
everybody.
on the spot. Yeah, they got a huge roster, and like it's good and it's bad. I've had this conversation a few times where I'm like, I'm a little worried that people are gonna get just lost in the shuffle.
Yeah,
Especially with
because like
the influx of people that are available,
Yeah.
whether it's releases or obviously Ring of Honor's just dropped the ball doing its thing. It's just like, yee.
And it's weird because like they have the TV time
Right.
for them with Dark and Elevation, but I think so much of the fan base, and I'm projecting 100%. I think a lot of the fan base is like myself, where it's like I will tune in every Wednesday and every Friday, but for whatever reason, getting me to tune in on Monday and Thursday, I think is when Tuesday. Okay, yeah. So getting me to tune in on Monday and Tuesday is like a whole other thing, and so yeah, like I don't know what's going on Dark and Elevation, but like there could be some really great matches happening over there. Last time I checked on it, it was like a lot of like I don't want to say yes. That's I was about to say like a lot of squashes and stuff. And again, he's not new, but Miro's like chosen one gimmick lately has been so great. Like I loved the like a couple weeks ago where he was like mocking God, and then this last week where he's like first you turned your back on me, and then now you give me a title shot. Are you mocking me? And he's like now he's just arguing with him week to week, and it's great. So that's what I love about AEW is a lot of people who seemed kind of pigeonholed in WWE seem to be given the freedom or given more ideas, or I don't know exactly what's going on back there, but I think it's working for a lot of people to like really just be able to be themselves and have some great ideas and everything. Anna Jay has been very interesting to watch. I do love watching Ty Conti's evolution over time of like, even at the beginning of her AEW stint, you're like, she's still pretty green. And like over time, it's like, oh yeah, she's like a pivotal, like, or like a essential part of the roster now. So I like that that's something that I like, that they're putting in the effort and they're putting in like the time visibly to newer talent and stuff to see. And like I said, if I was watching Dark and Elevation, I'd probably be a little bit more privy to that even more to be able to see stuff. But my brother really loves, I think it's Lee Johnson who has a match next week. My brother absolutely loves him. He's one that I haven't. It's funny because like, so my brother is also training to be a wrestler. And so it's funny because like he's very tuned in on the indie side of things. And so I'm like, he'll mention somebody and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I won't think about it for a while. And then that person will show up on Darker Elevation. And then that person may show up on Dynamite, and I'll just be like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I've heard about this guy now for weeks." So it's been really interesting to hear people's come up like that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see that journey, like you mentioned. I totally agree. Dark and Elevation, yeah, it's a weird one. I agree. Where like. It is a lot of enhancement stuff, so it's kind of hard to be invested. That sounds weird, but like I don't know. Like I usually have it on in the background every once in a while. I'm like, oh yeah, there's so and so doing their thing. But I agree. Like there's a certain point with all fandoms, whether it's WWE or AEW. Like certain ones you watch, certain ones you don't watch. Did you know that Main Event is still going on? I don't know who watches that anymore, but like
I did just because of when Raw came here.
Yeah.
They did Main Event before. And man, I'm blanking on his name now. EC3. EC3 was in Main Event, and I felt so bad because that was his gimmick at the time, was holding the red Solo Cup. but he legitimately just looked dead inside. And it's like main event, and you're putting EC3 on main event, and it's like, oh my God, I felt so bad for that man. He was like, he was like coming out. He was just, his whole thing, for anybody that doesn't remember, was like pointing at the letters as they went up on the Titantron, and he was just so dejected. He was like, And I was like, I don't think that you are working me right now, sir. I think that that's just how you feel every night. Which I don't know where he is right now. Did he go back to Impact? I haven't seen that.
So he did a short stint in Impact. I think he might have done a program with Moose. That was during the time where Moose brought back the old TNA title. So he did a little stint with them, or him. I think he officially signed with ROH. I don't watch much of their products, so I don't know exactly what was going on. But then he's also been doing his own thing, the like control the narrative storyline. And I think he's hosted maybe 1 or 2 of his own pay-per-views. The most recent one was maybe 2 weeks ago, and it had Braun Strowman and some other people on there. So yeah, he's putting in work for himself.
Good for him, man.
Yeah,
good for
definitely.
him.
And that's another thing too. Like you mentioned with AEW, like they're letting former WWE people, or people who didn't have a chance per se, and kind of releasing them. And Ruby Riott, I forgot, or Ruby Soho now, excuse me. She's another one I really enjoyed. And I remember her showing up in NXT, not knowing anything about her, and just like, whoa, that's a different look. And then like, I love the Riot Squad, but yeah, Riot Squad just never seemed to like get anything. And I was like, this stinks. So seeing her over there now, and then like watching her debut and having people chant for her before she even came out, I'm like, hell yes. Good for you.
I was telling that to my brother while we were watching. I was like, wow, I would not have guessed like that she had such a huge, and I mean, even from interviews, it sounded like she wasn't guessing that she was going to have that reaction, which is just so much better. Like, I'm not the hugest Ruby Soho fan. I like her and everything, but that's just the perfect moment of like wrestling these days where you're like, I'm happy for you. Like, you deserve this, Ruby. Like, you go, girl. Like, that's
100%,
awesome.
100%. And then the last one that I can think to come to mind that I just really enjoy and I knew nothing about before, Brandon Cutler has won me over, and I love his stuff. Whether it was Initiative and the losing streak early on, and then obviously now he's being the lackey for the Super Elite, or just the Elite in general. But I just love seeing him do his thing. Yeah. Just very entertaining.
He's done. I love. They have nailed my type of humor, especially with the cold spray. Just the ways that they can. The ways that they can involve cold spray into this, I'm just like, that's amazing. And I crack up every time they do it, like in lieu of pyro, and he'll do it in front of like the BTE camera. He'll like, and it's so good.
Yeah, that's another thing too with BTE. Just like I like obviously doing footage with them entering, but I love the little bits where he puts the camera down and like you can hear him chanting, saying or something, and then he'll just get smacked or whatever. It's just that little extra.
It's amazing. Now that we're talking about it, that is my one other piece of like weird feedback on AEW. I feel like everybody has their own vlog, and I'm like, if you have a good following on your own blog, like, who am I to stop you? You do your thing.
Right,
but I feel like everybody
Sammy,
has a blog.
Thunder, Evil Uno.
Yeah, it's crazy. The is it 2.0? They also have their own show.
Yeah. They 2.0, and then they were crap. What were they in NXT? They were Everrise. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I just know that they are Matt and Jeff, and I'm like, what a weird choice for that one. Like, I will say on tag teams. Now, this is kind of a controversial one, and granted, I started feeling this way before the heat came, and I still kind of feel like this. But I'm actually like pretty high on I cannot think of their team name, but Caster and Anthony Bowens.
Oh, Acclaimed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I actually dig the Acclaimed. Yeah. Like they were really good, and I was kind of like, I was a fan of their feud with Varsity Blues. Varsity Blondes. They took it too far that one time, but I feel like they had a good. And again, I'm kind of biased, but they were doing the exact same shtick as Crime Time was doing to Lita back in the day. And I was a child and laughed at it back then, and I'm a child and I laugh at it now. And I'm like, they seem to be having fun. And I don't want to be this guy, but it seems like ever since that happened and their feud like just went to a halt, like I haven't seen Varsity Blondes like since then. And I'm like, well, that kind of sucks that it seems like their momentum's also got halted, and somehow the Acclaimed has now gone past them, and now the Acclaimed is on everything. And I'm like, well, this is not how this feud should have ended up. Like the heels progress.
Yeah, there's a couple of people who I've seen like they get behind and then just drop off the face of the planet. Like Sonny Kiss is another one. Like he got that awesome TNT title match against Cody, and they did great, and like he was getting the fancy entrances and all that, and then just go to Dark, go tag with Joey Janela, and then do nothing with it, and now you're fighting against Joey Janela, and I don't know if you're still doing anything with it. It's just like, okay, all right.
So this is a very weird wrestling story that I have that I don't think you were prepared for. I don't know. So at the game studio I work for, I also work with a guy named Dave Lowmiller, who is the lead singer and guitarist of a band called A Dark Halo, which also made music for, I can't think of the name of the game. It was one of the WWE games for the GameCube. He worked at the game studio at the time, and they made music for that. Day of Reckoning. They feature on the Day of Reckoning soundtrack. And so they're like kind of intrinsically tied with WWE. Like every time that they release a song, I help out with all their video stuff. And so every time we release a new video or anything like that, people always comment like, "Oh, I'm here from Day of Reckoning." And it's like so funny. And we found out through just noticing stuff, we had the story told to us that we found out Sonny Kiss is actually a huge Dark Halo fan.
No way.
And so it was really funny because Dave was like asking me about him, and I was like, yeah, totally, he's awesome, like hit him up. And so just through talking and stuff, they've now like he hooked him up with some shirts and stuff. And so that's now I see Sonny Kiss like through this whole other light of like, yeah, they're cool. I don't like you said, it's weird that they have like kind of dropped off. That is definitely AEW's got the big elephant in the room that everybody talks about, the women's division. And then AEW also has that other problem of like, especially, and I love it, with having the CM Punks coming back and the Daniel Bryans coming back and everything like that. But that is a kind of a bad side effect, is a lot of the other people kind of get lost in the shuffle, because now every Impact or every Dynamite or every Rampage is either going to start with CM Punk or it's going to start with Daniel Bryan. And that's been like the thing for a few weeks, and I love both of them. So I can't, I have no complaints about it. But yeah, it is kind of, that's kind of the bad side of that. But CM Punk coming back was such a moment, so I will take that over, a lot of things.
Papa Griff, very important comment in chat. Who the fuck is Griff Garrison?
I know that he gets this a lot. Every time I see him, I'm like, that's just a big jungle. They're the same person, just scaled up. Just this 150% scale right there.
Oh boy.
And it's so sad that it's like the only thing that I hear of from WWE is like, oh, Roman Reigns is still doing really good stuff. But like that's all I know to talk about with current day WWE is like, oh yeah, Reigns is doing pretty good stuff. And I will say the Reigns and the Brock feud looked interesting. It's kind of weird that they gave it like the crown jewel thing, like they already had the match. That felt like they should have led up to like Mania or whatever. But yeah, I hear that one's good. But that's kind of what I know, right? I mean, shout out to Xavier Woods and Big E for winning their respective King of the Ring and the championships. Like that's awesome. But yeah, I haven't tuned into Raw or SmackDown in a little while.
Yeah, social media has been my way of keeping up with everything. I think I was keeping up with NXT week to week, but then with me working nights, I can't really watch SmackDown or anything, or AEW. So I'm like, oh, hello Twitter, just keep refreshing and see what's going on. But yeah, WWE's. I agree. Roman's been killing it. The thing they've been doing with him and the head of the table has been great. And then other than that, it's just like they all perform solid for the most part, which is great. Like I'll watch the pay-per-views and have it on in the background or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's good. But there's still something like, just, I don't know if it's just seeing the potential that's being like not used at all it's just like that's the downer, or like, why are you doing that with so and so, or why aren't you doing that with so and so? It's just like, I don't know.
And I can't imagine that it has helped, the morale backstage that all their friends keep getting
Yeah.
fired. So it's like you've got to I can't imagine what the backstage feeling is that's like nobody's safe and like everybody's on eggshells, I would imagine. Like I don't the one for me and my brother keep talking about it, but the one for us always goes back to Braun Strowman because that was like a WWE guy that like built from the ground up. He had the look. He was like a WWE person, and the fact that they let him go, I'm like, they could let anybody short of like Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar
Yeah,
go.
right.
Other than those two, I feel like anybody's on the chopping block, and so it's just super weird. And Wrestle Talk has talked about this. It does kind of make it hard to, or maybe it was Going and Raw. Maybe it was all of them that talked about it. But it does make it kind of hard as a fan to be like, do I want to get up on Monday night and like change it over to the USA Network and watch it? But it's like, I don't know. You just let go like some really cool people that were like trying really hard for you, and you made all this money, so it's weird. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to support you right now,
Right. It's
WWE.
like, it's the double-edged sword. Like, I watch to support the talent, but then I'm also
Yeah.
supporting. It's like, how do I send a message without fucking over the people that aren't doing good? It's like,
It's
God.
it is such a weird reflection of the games industry where we have a lot of publishers out there that are making shady moves and stuff, and people are like, well, do I buy the games? And you're like, well, the publishers are going to make money despite themselves, and the developers are the ones that it's like are tied into bonuses or performances and whatever else. And so it's like it's such a weird mirror that I haven't even thought of until you worded it like that. But it is funny how funny in a bad way,
Yeah.
how the two industries kind of do that to the people who actually make the product and actually are the ones going out there.
Right. Nice. Well, I got one more question for you. Back to the AEW side of things. Obviously, we've had a lot of
Perfect.
talent come in, make their debuts and make some moves over there. Is there anybody, whether they're signed somewhere currently or not, that you would like to see make that jump to something like an AEW to get that second chance or that freedom?
I mean, the easy answer, because I'm a stupid mark, is the rest of Bullet Club and the rest of oh my gosh, why am I blanking on their name? Adam Cole, NXT, Bobby
Oh,
Fish, Kyle O'Reilly,
Undisputed Era.
Undisputed. Yeah. Get the rest of those. I can't remember if it was my brother Wrestle Talk or Going in Raw, but somebody mentioned like one day it is possible for us to get Elite versus Undisputed Era. And it's like, how cool would that be? And it's like, that would be awesome. Have like an AJ Styles go over there or something as well. There's a lot of weird ones where I'm just like, throw everybody over there. But kind of the other side of the coin, like we were talking about earlier, I also want to see a lot of them kind of flourish out their people as well. I
Right.
mean, you have people that I didn't know about prior, like Eddie Kingston is a great example that, like AEW showed me him, and it's like he is freaking awesome. So it's like, you know, I love a lot of those people. It's a corny answer, but that's the answer is like those people that I don't know that are awesome, that somebody else does, and they're like trying them out or whatever in the
Mm-hmm.
back end. But yeah, those are like my two different answers of like bring in the rest of the elite or bring in the people that I don't know about and bring them up.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that was a
But
blast, by the way. Oh, what about
what about
me?
you? Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
boy.
You can't just not answer your
Well,
questions.
that's why it's a question.
Fair, fair.
Man, that's tough.
It's a toughie.
Cause yeah, like you said, going back to the point of like establishing people they have. Because I've talked
Yeah.
about that. Like, you just keep bringing in new people. Like, I don't know. If everything feels like flashes in the pan sometimes. Like, especially with the hidden or forbidden door that they had, like somebody show up, oh, we're all excited, and then they do nothing, and then it's the next thing, and then it's just like revolving. What's the next surprise? So that's a tough one.
Yeah, because there was that moment where it was like, Miro shows up and I'm even blanking, but there was like a good moment because WWE has just had a steady cadence of letting people go since the pandemic started. Really, that's been it, is since the pandemic started. Like, I feel like every 3 or 4 months we get a new round of people that everybody's like, oh, who's gonna get hired by AEW? And it's like something's got to give at a certain point. They
Right.
can't hire everybody, unless, like we were talking about earlier, they can really, no pun intended, elevate Dark and Elevation. But I don't know how you do that. That's where I'm a poor fan, where I'm like, I'm telling you this is my pain point as a fan. I can't give you the solution because I
Mm.
don't. It's short of you just going on TV being like, "Hey, we know Dark kind of sucks right now, but you should tune in because we're really trying to fix it." I don't know how they can, bring us in. But granted, they have a good track record of treating their fans with respect and transparency,
Mm.
for the most part, I should say. So it's like, honestly, if they did something like that, I'd respect the hell out of it and be like, you know what, I will tune in next Monday. Like, I don't know if anything's going to be different, but I'd do it.
Right.
But yeah, I think that I think that's the easiest way, that if they do want to bring people in, and you want to give local talent paychecks too.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's hard not for me to say, don't give local enhancement talent their day in the sun, because they can also find new people that way too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they've done that a few
it's a
times, I
tough
feel.
balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So thinking about it, not because I'm unhappy with what they're doing, but I just think it would be interesting to see in a new environment. I thought of two, both from NXT. I want to see MSK or the Rascals as in Impact. I'd like to see them against some of AEW's tag team division. I think that could be exciting, and I think they would fit pretty
Yeah.
well, especially with their, high flying,
Mhm.
fast paced style. And then another one who's caught my eye in the past couple of years, but Io Shirai. What can she do when
Oh,
she's
yeah.
fully let off the chain?
There, yeah. She would be a great addition to the women's roster at
Yeah.
AEW. Like previously mentioned, that's one of their, and I think they know it because everybody yells it, is the women get one match per show, and only one match. No more, no less. They get one match per show, and it's normally the same, 3 or 4 faces that you've seen, just in a different combination.
Right.
So yeah, Io Shirai would be dope. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Shotzi
Hopefully.
Blackheart, bring
Oh,
her over.
yeah.
Great.
Hopefully the TBS title can do something with that division. Just bump it up a little.
I have
bit.
a problem
Okay, ready.
with these titles. Why? Like, okay, so when they unveiled the TNT title,
Yeah.
I was telling my brother Colby, I was like, I hate this. Like, it's just the logo.
Yeah.
And my brother was like, no, you don't get it. It's Dynamite, TNT. And I was like, yeah, but it's just the
Oh
network
wow! I
logo.
never made that connection. I'm
And
stupid.
he was like, and I was like, you know what? You've kind of won me over. And then everything happened, obviously with Brody and everything. They bring in the new title color and everything. Like, I wasn't a big fan of the red was before. The now it's, or was it
Oh,
now
the
it's
color.
red?
Yeah.
Now is it black now or red now? Now I'm complaining about it. And I can't.
I remember it was
white,
green when
like,
Miro had it.
yeah. But anyway, I had such a problem with that. And then now they unveil the TBS title, and now my brother's like, yeah, that's kind of weird with the TBS logo. And I'm like, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Like, although I do love Britt Baker's call out in her interview, she was like, I was hoping for the Cartoon Network title myself.
Right.
Like, that would have been cool, Britt. You're right. So yeah, no, I have a problem with those designs, but I love what they're doing, with them and everything like that. Having your own, like, intercontinental style, where the workhorse title is always a good thing. So I'm always behind that. And like you said, hopefully that kind of emboldens the women's division out a little bit as well, and gives them more to like aspire and fight towards.
Papa Griffin chat has kind of brought up a point. He says, I don't know why the perception of the women's division is weak. I don't think that's true at all. Is there something specific that you feel doesn't connect with the women's division that could make it better?
With me specifically, I think it's they feel, so let me change that a little bit. I don't think the division is weak. I think the handling of the division is weak.
Okay.
Like I said, like I was joking, they get one match per show and one match only. They may get a backstage promo. It is always interrupted by somebody.
Right.
And it's like, I don't, it just feels weird to me that it's like you have like a great, that's a good call out. Thank you. You have a great roster of people, but it doesn't feel like you use them. And the TBS title is a great example of that. Like they have the roster to fill out an entire tournament bracket, but I feel like I don't see any of them. I feel like I see Britt Baker every week, which is great. I love Britt Baker, but I feel like I see Britt Baker every week, and I feel like I see, oh man, I swear I'm normally pretty good with names, but Nyla Rose.
A lot of
I feel
people
like
to
I see
go.
Nyla Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I see. Oh, Red Velvet came and went.
Yeah.
Um, Ty Conti and Anna Jay are good to see with the Dark Order,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like they're almost always just with the Dark Order. That being said, I think Anna Jay just had the match for the TBS title
Mm-hmm.
or for that
Bracket. Yeah.
contention. Um, and I mean, that right there is a good example. Like you said, maybe the TBS title will give them more matches, but that's just my issue. Is I feel like, and I could be completely off base, but I feel like in the 2 hours that we're given, I feel like they should just have more of that pie. Because again, they have one match normally, and I could be saying this, and Dynamite they could have had 2 or 3 matches, and I just don't remember it. Um, but yeah, that's my personal perception. And maybe it does get better with the TBS title. I know they are working on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's like I said, everybody and their mom says it. So,
Right.
if it isn't slowly getting better over time, then they're not that great backstage. And I know who they have helping out the women's division and everything, and booking it out and everything that they are working on it. So that would be cool to see over time. But yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
And I've extended that sentence too long anyway.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, I agree. The Raw, like they have a lot of names because I was going through it in my head as you were like listing people. Like you got Bret, you got Thunder Rosa, you got Chris Statlander, you got Red Velvet, you got Jade Cargill, you got Nyla Rose, you got
Chris
all
Statlander.
these names, and like thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, these are pretty established women. But I
Yeah.
don't. There's some. Maybe it's just me. There's some disconnect. I just am not like super amped for them. Like Brit
Yeah.
and Thunder, I would say are my two most interesting. But then even as you go and Ruby, even as you go farther down the
Ruby.
line, like you got Jamie Hayter, you got Emi Sakura, you got Riho, both Rihos actually, because there's two of them.
Mhm.
You have all these women, and I see them on Dark, I see them on Elevation, but once again, those are kind of like quick matches.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know. It's something. It's weird because the talent's there, and I recognize these women are good and have something about them, but I don't know. It doesn't pull me the same way as maybe like a Charlotte or a Sasha or a Becky, and maybe it's just a timing thing. Maybe it's just like it's a growing thing, and we haven't gotten to that point yet where I'm fully invested. I don't know. It's odd. It's an odd thing to think about.
What I like about the AEW women's roster, I've been saying this about two of them in particular, and I completely forgot about it until you said her name. Jamie Hayter and Jade Cargill. I've told my brother this. They both remind me of Street Fighter characters, and I love that. Now, mainly, is it my brain telling me this because AEW has a Street Fighter like connection?
Right.
Maybe, but I'm also like these look like people that you would just like choose on Street Fighter, which is awesome to me. But yeah. Also, thank you for challenging me in the comments because I haven't like thought about my position on things. You know how you are, like not you, the royal you.
Yeah.
Like you know how you are, like you just say the same thing over and over again, and you don't even think about why you're saying it anymore. And that's a great example of I was like, no, you're right. Like they have gotten better, and I think it really does for me just stem with the TV time that they get and just the lack thereof. But yeah, like naming people and stuff, like that's a great example. Because yeah, Nyla versus Rio, the title change happened here in Austin,
Oh, okay.
and it was like such a great moment, and I was like, this is a fantastic match. Um, and I think that was the other thing is like at the beginning of the pandemic, maybe Rio like couldn't come over, and so like the title just was in limbo for a long time leading up to pandemic, maybe because I know Britt Baker carried it for most of the pandemic. So I don't know what I'm thinking of, but I remember not seeing the title for a long time and being like, well, this is a weird place for the division.
Right. Yeah, there was that gap.
Yeah,
Stupid travel stuff and the
I know.
pandemic.
Come on, COVID, get it together.
Jeez. Oh boy. Well, there's the wrestling topic, Corey. That was awesome chatting with you about wrestling. I'm sure we could keep going on and on about that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
maybe we'll have to do a follow up again about maybe some stuff that happens down the road. Who knows? There's always something going on in the world of wrestling. But yeah, we're gonna move on to topic 2. Corey, what's your topic today?
So I was thinking as I do that for some reason I feel like I always got to bring the deep topics to the
Okay.
show. Of I was thinking of what gets you interested to pick up a product like a piece of media, like a book or a TV show or a game or whatever. It's like what can you distill? Because I think I might have mentioned it. I'm having deja vu. I, for the past couple of years, have really tried to think about as I get older. I try to think about what inspires and drives me as a purchaser and a creator and everything like that. Like, what do I like? Why do I like those things? And everything like that. So, that's my big topic is do you think about, have you thought about, do you know, like what clicks in your head when you see something aside from the obvious being like, well, this is the seventh Star Wars movie and I love Star Wars.
Right.
And like, aside from that, like, do you normally see something and you're like, that's my shit. I'm picking that up, or I'm at least, gonna look at reviews
Mm-hmm.
more specifically.
Wow. Okay. Huh.
So for me, while you think about
Yeah.
that, I'll
Thank you.
give kind of one of my answers is that I'm a sucker for like so there's a couple things and they're both very very easy answers is FPSs I will almost always be more interested in, but again a lot of the industry is, so to nail it down I've found that I'm not a big fan of like hero FPSs. So like honestly that was a big turn off for me with Vanguard that just came out, seeing that it is kind of like an Overwatch shooter just in World War II, where
Oh
there's
boy.
like, well,
I'm just kidding. Just
fair.
kidding.
Now, that being said, Overwatch is like, now don't take this the wrong way, because you could take this the wrong way, but don't take it the wrong way. Overwatch is like the Fortnite of hero shooters,
Yeah.
where I feel like anybody can pick it up and be like, oh, this is like, and a lot of that is super intentional with the art style and the gameplay and everything like that. Um, but like, so you have like your Overwatch, which is like established, and then you have like Call of Duty Vanguard, which looks like just awesome Call of Duty gameplay, which is the Call of Duty gameplay that we know. It's super refined. They know what they're doing. But then it's like, oh, you have to pick a hero, it seems.
Oh.
And I've been watching a couple of streamers play it, and then now they have like a play of the game, and you have to vote for like who had the best like stats and stuff. Like,
Oh.
oh, this many heals, this many assists, which cultivates a really good positive environment in your game, but can also have the opposite effect where people are going to vote for this, and then they like
Yeah.
skip
Yeah.
it. So it's kind of a weird thing. And then I'm the same way with Rainbow Six Siege. Like I don't know. Something about that just seems weird to me. I really gravitate. We were talking about this before the show, but I gravitate towards like the Halos, where, I mean, even like Halo 4, which had loadouts, like stuff like that, where everybody has the access to the same equipment is cool. And I totally get the appeal of saying like, hey, this is my class, this is what I get. It's also the reason why I'm hesitant on Battlefield 2042, and I'm like a diehard Battlefield fan, but I'm hesitant and I'm looking at reviews, and then when it comes out, Game Pass users get a 10-hour trial, so I'm very excited to try that out. And I'm a big enough Battlefield fan that I could so easily like you know, play it for an hour and be like, oh, this is way better than I thought, and purchase it right there.
Right.
I'm very easy on the hype train. And then the other one that is, okay, everybody's like that. You're not special, Corey, is like a third person action adventure game. But I'm kind of like a lot of people where I'm tiring of the injection of like RPG elements and open world into everything.
Yeah.
Like I really personally enjoy the Uncharted's where it's kind of a focused linear game. Um, What it feels like to me, and I sound like such a negative Nancy here, is any game where they give me too many options, I'm like, I can't. Skyrim. I acknowledge Skyrim is a fantastic game. I've never been able to play it for more than a few hours because
Got
I'm
it.
like, I'm credited in New World. Like I
Oh.
worked in New World, and like I've played it for 40 hours, and I'm like, this is an MMO. This is my first ever MMO, but I'm just not having the greatest time. Like I'm having fun with it. It's a great podcast or Discord game. Um, but I feel like I could be using that time somewhere else. It's like Destiny is becoming more of an MMO and I'm becoming less interested in it because I actually really like the Destiny that's like super focused in what they're doing. I've never been like a raids guy though, but that
Yep.
is like such a part of the industry that um, I am so secure in the fact that I may not like it, but there's a million people that do, so I don't hold that against the game whatsoever. And I think ever since being on this side of the industry too, I have kind of weakened my stance on a lot of things where I'm like, oh no, like yeah, there's a huge player base for almost everything you do. So tastes are completely whatever, personal, which is obvious statement, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of those things you just said about games. Like Witcher 3 was the moment for me where it was too many things. I think I did the
Hmm.
intro and then I just looked at the map and I'm like, nah, I don't know where to go. I don't know
Yeah.
what to do.
Witcher 3 is a great example. I think I have like 12 hours in it, and I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty good." And they were like, "All right, you're 15% done." And I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, okay, I'm putting this down.
Yeah, and yeah, like the open worldness, like it's great. This is gonna sound kind of hypocritical. Like it's great if I like what I'm doing, but if I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I don't want to go run around or travel for this far. I just want to get to the thing. just.
It's the beauty of video games, and I sound so romanticized or whatever, but there's like an intangible thing within each of us that if you like what you're doing, you will put up with so much. And if you don't like it, you'll find any reason to
Mhm.
to put it down. And like it's been so, in my opinion, exemplified with Far Cry 6, where so
Okay.
a lot of people are like same Far Cry formula, blah blah. But then at the same time, the internet's great for this. Well, you'll find five people that absolutely hate everything, and then you'll find five people that like this is the most refined the series has ever been. I love Far Cry because it's this thing over and over again, and I'm gonna play it until I die. And it's like, like I said earlier, I think I've learned over time that like everybody just finds things, and then you have the players that haven't played a Far Cry in years, and so the formula is not tired to them at all, and
Mhm.
they love coming back to that familiar feel. And so it's so weird on the development side where you're like, okay, well, do I completely reinvent the wheel and like alienate the player base that is still with us? At like Halo has been going through this in the past few years. It's like, well, what do we do to evolve the formula, but also keep it familiar for those who are still with us and everything? And I think they've done a pretty good job balancing those two things. And I honestly hope this is a little bit off of a tangent, but I honestly hope that a lot of companies look at how they're doing the battle pass and learn from it and take that. Because like, I went a few seasons in Fortnite where I was playing every night or whatever, but just the idea that, hey, we know you spent $10 on this battle pass, but if you don't work hard enough, content's gone forever. Sorry, sucker.
Mhm.
Whereas Halo, it's like once you've put down the $10, the battle pass is always there. So there's always
Oh.
what's the word I'm looking for? Reward loop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like there's always a ladder that you can climb. It's never going to go away. And if in season 2 you want to buy it day 1, you can. If you want to wait until you're done with season 1, like for anybody who's played MCC, they're on season 8 now, and you can put in points to any of those seasons. MCC, I've been telling all my friends, like it feels so plain to see that MCC is the testing ground, and 343 really like nailed down what in my opinion is the best monetization strategy we've seen so far since the whole loot box debacle in the industry as a whole was like, we got to rethink this. And I don't think battle passes are inherently evil. I think there are some ways that they use them against against you, like the timed exclusivity thing of, it's only available for 3 months. You better get it. And if you
Right.
paid for it and you didn't earn it, sorry, like whatever. But yeah, like that's another great example of like Call of Duty has a battle pass, Battlefield has a battle pass, Rocket League has a battle pass. So like all these games have a battle pass. That's another great example of I know what I like and I know what I don't like. Now I know before I go into a game, does it have a battle pass? What kind of battle pass is it? And it's like, because a lot of that stuff, it's like, if the battle pass is handled one or another way, I just don't have the time for that. So I'm not going to get invested in the video game because I'm going to have to start putting, especially a game like Battlefield, where it's a full $60 price and then paid battle passes. Like you really need to show me as the player that the battle pass is totally worth it. And so that's a great example of something that I like. And I know why, because it feels dirty when when I don't get the stuff that I pay for,
Yeah.
or it feels great when I do. And so I don't know. That's just something that I think about a lot, and I do it with TV shows, and I'm starting to read Dune, and I'm like trying to do it with that. Like, okay, I don't like this decision. Why don't I? And that helps inform my editing career a lot too. Is if you know what you like, there's other people who like or dislike the same things, so you can use that information to inform your edits. Great example is I just got to release a Achievement Hunter video, and I finally got to input my humor into some of these videos that of a company that really helped inform my humor. So it's like I'm giving back. And I was looking in the comments, and one of the comments was like, I think the editor really ruined the punchline here because they did blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, what a great example of how my setup of a joke doesn't work for somebody else, but I thought it added to the humor.
Yeah.
They thought it didn't add to the humor. So just like in video games where I'll like something, you won't like something, I think that informs everything that we do in the creative field. So I always look into that, and I always recommend that everybody else look. If you like stuff, why do you like it? And it just helps inform a lot of stuff, and you kind of feel more comfortable, and you're like, I'm not going to do this. Like Forza Horizon, great example. I love arcade racing. I don't like sim racing. So like, I'm probably not going to get Forza Motorsport,
Right.
or Gran Turismo, So yeah.
Nice. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking of why I like stuff during
Yeah.
that whole time. You're trying to circle back. Okay, so Far Cry, you brought that up, so that kind of was the example I went with. So Far Cry 3 was the first one I had played. And I think the thing that hooked me with that, it's a simple answer, I guess, is just the story and like the level of characters that were in there. Like Voss was really interesting. Do I remember any of the other characters in there? No. But I liked the setting of just like, oh shit, I'm a regular dude. My friends are in trouble. How do I get them back? And just seeing, like, obviously through playing the game, the deterioration of Jason, I think his name was, and like how he became like just so out of it from all the stuff he's doing. Like that was intriguing. And then like, yeah, Far Cry 4 and 5. I haven't played 6 yet. I'm waiting on that one because, once again, backlog. But, like, I was just like, yeah, another Far Cry. Gimme. Let's go.
Yeah, totally.
And I was really into those worlds. And I think their villains have been really strong. I think Pagan Min was probably on the lower end for me. But, like, I know 5's controversial. I loved 5. I was all in on 5.
Okay. Yeah.
Even the ending, I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're telling me I was so invested in this world that I didn't know what was going on outside, and then shit hits the fan? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that'll happen, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it was just like their preview and storytelling to lure me in. I think that was a big thing. And I think even for movies too, like, it's weird to say because there's some of these like I haven't seen, like Knives Out. That's intriguing. Have I watched it yet? No. But I'm like,
so good.
But I'm like, ooh, that seems interesting. Like the little mystery element and like all these unique characters. I'm like, oh, all right, maybe I should give that a try. I'm trying to think of what else. I think it's a weird one, but recommendations, just like either someone just word of mouth or like a streamer playing something and me watching that. That's a big one too. It's just kind of like, almost like demo discs were, especially for the game side. Like you get the little taste and you're like, you know what, I want to try that. Like fellow streamer Jeff Reg, he was playing a game called Spirit Fair. I don't know if you're familiar with this game. Okay.
Yeah.
So watching him play it, like I had never heard of it, and I'm like, oh, you know, it's cute. It's got a fun art style, and the story is emotional and stuff, but you know, still is good. Just picked that up after he was playing. I was like, this is great. I love it. It's nice and calm. I don't have to think too much about it. And yeah, I'm going for the ride. And then another one more recently, I watched a streamer called A Platypus, and he was streaming a game called Inscription. I don't know if you know that one. It just recently came out. It's made by the developer who made, what was the game? It's something Unicorn Island or something like that. Pony Island is what he made. So anyways, so this game is like it's a card game essentially. So you have different animals, and then you're, you know, trying to attack almost like Yu-Gi-Oh! Life points and shit. But the thing is, it starts as that, and as you progress the story, it becomes a whole different thing. The same base mechanics of the game are there, but your environment will change, and you're like, wait, this isn't the story I thought it was. I'm not in the cabin in the woods trying to escape. It's this other thing, and it's like, what? So like those elements of storytelling and like luring you on, I think is a big thing for me. Of just like, if this is interesting enough, yeah, I'm ready. But if I'm sitting there waiting for the story moments, similar to the open world mechanics of like I'm traveling or I have to go all the way over there before I can hit that next story point, that's where you lose me. And it's like, man.
So I was wondering, is that kind of what you think could be the difference between your love of Far Cry versus your not as much love of like The Witcher? Is it the compelling villain, or is it the travel to get to story beat moment, or you know, is there, can you put a finger on like what, you know, is the difference? Because at the surface they seem very similar, but you know, they are also very, very different in almost every regard.
Yeah, definitely, for sure they are similar, because I mean, it is an open world and you get a lot of objectives. If you want to, I mean, one's swords, one's guns, big deal. Like that's the you know, one difference. I think something that Far Cry does better than Witcher, at least from my minimal experience with Witcher, when I did the intro, I defeated the Griffin or whatever the hell it was destroying the town. And then as soon as I looked at the map, there were so many bubbles and like things on the map that I just got overwhelmed, and I'm like, well, I don't know where to go. Like, what's the main quest, or what's not important, what's just for gear? Like, there were so many things. Far Cry does the nice thing where, like, it was the radio towers, at least in 3 and 4. I don't remember 5 all that well. But yeah, you do the radio tower, and then it's like this area, and that area is revealed. So I don't know if it was just like the cookie crumbs of like, here's stuff you can do, like dishing it out that way, that maybe was appealing. And there's other games that do similar things, like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is another one that's kind of open world-esque, but they don't give you every area right off the bat. Like, you're stuck here, and you can zip around and, you know, fly to certain people and talk to them and do side quests or whatever. And everything was clearly labeled too. Like, this guy's a side quest, so you don't have to worry about, oh, this is gonna, you know, be really compelling. I have a few minutes, I can go run over to him or whatever. So maybe like it's just the bite-sized chunks instead of here's the whole world. I know you talked about Skyrim also being another iffy one. That one I can definitely understand too, because that is a big map, but I feel in a way that it's cookie crumbs, because you wouldn't really notice stuff until you like traveled to it. Like, oh, you discovered this cave. Oh, you discovered the woods or whatever the hell. The thing that could be problematic there is like when you start accepting too many quest lines and you're like, yes, okay, what? Which one do I go with? Up. Yeah, that could be a problem.
But that's my problem, and this is just an MMO thing. Like I do not hold this against the game at all. But that's my problem that I've found myself in with New World, where I have accepted so many quests And MMOs, every MMO loves doing this, where the quest line is always just right here in the frame, and it's like always present, and so it's always in the top right, and so it's a little overwhelming. But I mean, it's a really interesting thing. Like we have stumbled into the conversation of something that I have asked myself a million times, because Skyrim and Witcher are two games that I have fallen off of. But like Ghost of Tsushima is a great example. I have platinumed the game now, and I need to go back and like play the director's cut. I opened it so I would get the second platinum, but I haven't actually replayed the director's cut to get Iki Island, which I want to. And but like GTA 5 is a good example of, that's a big open world, but everybody GTA 5 does something to where it is so easily accessible that, it's sold 155 million copies at this point.
Yeah.
So like it's a very interesting thing to think about. And as somebody who doesn't, Fallout is another great example. Bethesda, BGS just in general for me, is a great example of a studio that I have a ton of respect for. I know that their games are loved by millions of people, but none of their games hit me. I'm hoping Starfield will be the different one for me, but I've tried three of the Fallout games, and then I've tried just one Elder Scrolls, being Skyrim, and none of them really stick. Fallout 4 being the most. I put about 30 hours, and I look back on it fondly, and I put it down to do something else, and I just never picked it back up again. And so that's a weird example of a game where you just put down, you're like, I really like that game. It's like, oh, did you ever finish it? No, never picked it up again.
Yeah, you got what you needed out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Which, as I age, I found is a good habit to have, which I don't have for most games. But the ability to put a game down and not feel guilty about it is definitely something. Because I a few years back got into an argument with a friend where he was like, "You never finish video games," and I was like, "I finish all these games," and I started cataloging every game that I finished. And that developed some mental thing now where I'm like, oh, I have to finish this game, or else this friend that I don't even talk to anymore is going to judge me because I don't finish the game. But yeah, looping back around to the actual topic. Yeah, it's a great mental exercise of, and then also like Spiritfarer is a great example. And then another one that kind of funny was playing live on air, Unpacking. Like that's another great example of, you're just unpacking rooms, and it's another chill game. And so knowing what I like, knowing what I don't like, but also trying to cognizantly pull myself out of those boundaries every once in a while just to see if my tastes have changed. Because I hate to sound like a broken record, but reading Dune is a great example. I tried to read that in high school, absolutely hated my time with it. And, I've read about 60, 70 pages with it now that I've seen the movie and kind of understand, and just grown as a person, and tastes change and evolve, and you ingest different media. And those will change over time. So challenging, not only knowing those boundaries, but then challenging those boundaries every once in a while is always also good. So it's a weird, like I said, I try to bring the deep topics to the show and dive into your mind and figure out why you like things.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, it's making me think about all the things, like, why do I like these things? Like, I keep circling back to characters, and I talked about shows earlier, word of mouth. Like, I don't know if you watch anime, but My Hero Academia, obviously that's huge.
Oh, yes.
Like
100%.
The characters was what got me invested in that. Like Aizawa is my man. I just love watching him and how smug he is with the kids and stuff like that. I'm like, yes, this is great. But then also, you got the character growth for the other students in class and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's really good. And then like, I don't know if it's something that just is. It's hard to think about, and I like that you asked this, because it's like, what? Like, why do I like Apex so much? I don't know. Maybe because the game loop. I don't know. Because the characters the characters are unique. Why is Fortnite so fun now? I used to hate it and make so much fun of it. I still make fun of it, but that's just because it's fun to make fun of Fortnite. I don't know, but it's just something you turn your brain off of, and I don't know, it's entertaining.
And it's super fun because it's like this is what I've learned a lot of the developers on the other side do, is like, what can we do to make this just on the surface level, it's interesting. But if something's just on the surface level interesting, it's not going to sell. So it's like, what can we do to this game to make it fresh and interesting, but also familiar to people and, want to have people come back? It's like, Respawn has done such a great job with Apex being something that, like you said, people just come back to. And battle royales in general have a really good job of that because there's so much opportunity for it. And I know there's players like my brother who have kind of grown tired of it. He has friends that play Warzone, and so he'll play Warzone with them, and then he'll also try to play Apex, and he had a thing of Fortnite for a while. And so it's interesting because every player is different, and you just kind of have to accept that going in. But then it's also like, how can we, and like I alluded to earlier, if you really like something, somebody else is going to like something. So a lot of these conversations are what other games have done in the past that you really like, and what can we learn from that? There's a famous saying that a million different people have said, but it's like, what is it? Good artists copy, great artists steal, something like that.
Okay.
And it's just a ridiculous saying, but it's true. Of just like all the things that you like the best have come from something else. It's Apex with the ping system's a great example. That I was just talking with a friend that like Portal 2 had a ping system. Yep. I didn't know that.
Put a portal
and it's
here.
Like, yeah, it's just like I had no clue about that. If you would have asked me, I would have said, Apex was like the innovators of the ping system. And it's like, well, maybe not. One of those guys just said, hey, I was playing Portal 2 this weekend and I think that would be really good in VR. Right. And then now every shooter, if it doesn't have a ping, you're like, what the hell are you doing? You need a ping in this
I hate talking to people.
Yeah. And granted, like it works so well because like you just have to accept that like players are just naturally going to be matched with randos. And especially people joke about it all the time. But I find in the year 2021, I don't go into a lobby and hear people talking anymore. Like it just doesn't happen to me. And I don't know, but I could be wrong. But like the Halo flight's a good example. And you go into those lobbies and like, it's like nobody's talking. Right. And so it's like using the ping system is great because then you can, communicate things non-verbally, and it's just changed the game so well. And I mean, New World has ping system and everything like that. So it's great it's just a fun exercise because then, yeah, especially with you and content, it's like, think about what YouTube channels and what streams do I watch and why do I watch them? And why did I click off of this guy? Am I doing something that this guy does? And, is somebody going to click off of me because I did that same thing? And there's just so much, so many different ways to apply just diving into your own psyche and figuring out, because there's a million people that think exactly like you. So it's always a fun exercise, especially if you get into something new. It's like, what grabbed me? Why am I diving into this so hard?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it makes your brain hurt a little bit, but in a good way.
Yeah. I tell my boss it's a bad thing. One of these days maybe I'll burn out. Who knows? But I am always working. I'm always when I'm laying down in bed, I'm like thinking about video stuff and everything else. And so it's a curse, but it's also a blessing.
Nice. Well, everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma911, and today I was once again joined by Corey, aka Corey Cudney. Corey, thank you so much, man, for being on the podcast again. Always a blast.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I always love chatting with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you guys want to catch this podcast live, go to twitch.tv/Enigma911 every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat if you're a subscriber over there. We'd love to have you. If you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. It's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 on the following Friday on YouTube and podcast services. Remember, guys, Extra Life 2021 is coming out November 20th. That's a Saturday, 24 hours of gaming, raising money for the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Any way you can help us out, whether it's by watching, spreading the word, or donating, would be greatly appreciated. And then last but not least, #ad merch store. Get all of your swag over there, t-shirts, cups, backpacks, and more. Rep the brand, support us, and we would love you for it. Corey, thanks for being on, man.
Of course. It was a blast.
Yeah. We'll have to figure out when part 3 is.
Keep it going.
Yeah. Viewers, listeners, watchers, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for giving us a chance. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Take